Life has a way of pulling the rug out from under you at the worst possible moment. For years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was Jacob Harris, a construction site supervisor in Austin, Texas, married to Melissa, father to 3 incredible kids, Sophie, 12, Lucas, 11, and Chloe, 7. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I worked long hours, came home exhausted, but still found time for bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes. Chloe used to sit on my lap, babbling about princesses. Lucas would show off whatever new trick he learned in soccer. Sophie, already getting into that too cool teenage phase, would pretend she wasn't listening, until I caught her smiling. I thought Melissa and I were solid. Sure, we had our arguments. Mostly about work, money, me missing too many family dinners. But I believed we had something worth fighting for. I believed a lot of things back then. Then, one rainy Tuesday, my entire world collapsed. I was up on the 2nd floor of an unfinished warehouse, inspecting scaffolding, when I heard a sharp crack. No time to react. No chance to grab onto anything. The floor just vanished beneath me. I don't remember hitting the ground. 1 second, I was standing. The next, I was staring up at the gray sky, raindrops hitting my face, my body refusing to move. The pain didn't register right away. Shock is weird like that. Then came the voices. My crew yelling for help, someone shouting my name, the distant wail of sirens. I remember thinking, this is bad. Really bad. When I woke up in the hospital, the first thing I saw was Melissa sitting by my bed. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying, but her hands were gripping her phone like it was more important than being here. A nurse was adjusting something on my fore. She smiled, calm, professional. You're lucky. The fall could have been worse. Doesn't feel lucky, I croaked. Melissa finally looked at me. Her mouth trembled, but she didn't say anything. Then the doctor walked in. You fractured several vertebrae in your lower back, he said, flipping through my chart. 2 broken ribs, a torn rotator cuff. We stabilized you. But, he hesitated. I already knew what he was about to say. There's a chance you won't walk properly again. Melissa let out a soft sob, covering her mouth. Me? I just stared at the ceiling. My job gone. The way I provided for my family gone. Melissa reached for my hand. We'll get through this, Jake. I promise. I wanted to believe her, but even in that moment, there was something off. The way her fingers felt loose in mine. The way her eyes kept flicking to her phone, like she was already somewhere else. The first few weeks were hell. I was in and out of surgeries, high on pain meds, trying to wrap my head around the fact that my body didn't belong to me anymore. Even sitting up felt like running a marathon. Melissa visited. At first. But something was different. She didn't hold my hand like before. Didn't stroke my hair, or tell me everything would be okay. She started making excuses. The kids are scared to see you like this. I have to handle everything on my own now. I'm just so overwhelmed, Jake. I believed her. I felt guilty for putting this burden on her. But then I noticed things. She'd come in, sit for 10 minutes, then start scrolling through her phone. Sometimes she'd get a text, and her whole expression would change, like someone had just whispered a secret in her ear. Then, one night, I woke up around midnight, my mind fuzzy from the painkillers. Melissa was in the chair by my bed, her back to me, phone screen glowing in the dark. She was smiling. Not the tired, forced smile she gave me. A real smile. My stomach twisted. I didn't say anything, just turned my head and stared at the ceiling. I already knew. I just didn't want to face it yet. When I was transferred to the rehab facility, things got worse. Melissa's visits became less frequent. First every other day, then twice a week, then barely at all. I kept asking to see the kids, but she always had a reason. Lucas has a big test. Chloe isn't ready. Sophie's mad at me for making her come. I missed them like hell. But Melissa? She barely seemed to miss me at all. One afternoon, she walked in wearing a new dress, hair done, makeup perfect, like she was headed to brunch instead of visiting her husband in rehab. I thought, maybe she was trying to cheer me up. I was wrong. She sat down, pulled a stack of papers from her purse, and slid them across the table. I can't do this anymore. I blinked, my brain still sluggish from physical therapy. What? Her lips pressed together. Jake, I need stability. The kids need stability. And I can't be a single parent while taking care of you too. I stared at the divorce papers in front of me. Are you serious? Her shoulders sagged, but she didn't look sad. Just relieved. It's better for everyone, she said. You'll get a settlement from the accident. You'll be fine. My hands curled into fists. I'm still your husband, Melissa. My voice was hoarse. Weak. I didn't die. Her eyes flicked away. It's not just about that. I swallowed hard. I already knew. Who is he? Her head snapped up. Guilt. Pure, raw guilt. That told me everything. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Jesus, you didn't even wait, did you? It's not like that, she whispered. Then what is it like, Melissa? She didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. She wasn't leaving because of my injury. She was leaving because she'd already moved on. And I was just dead weight now. The divorce happened fast. Too fast. I didn't have the strength or the money to fight it. Melissa got the house, full custody of the kids, even a chunk of my disability payout. Then, a few weeks later, I found out who the guy was. Travis, 28 years old, personal trainer. Of course his name was Travis. Lucas laughed when he heard. She left you for a guy whose entire personality is protein shakes and gym selfies? I didn't laugh. Because the worst part wasn't Travis. It was the fact that Melissa packed up the kids and moved out of state. No warning. No chance to say goodbye. One day, I was their dad. The next, I was nobody. I missed Sophie's 13th birthday. Lucas' first soccer championship. Chloe's first lost tooth. They were growing up without me. And I was just stuck. I moved in with Lucas. I had nowhere else to go. For weeks, I just sat on his couch, watching daytime TV and feeling like a ghost. Then, one night, Lucas walked in, crossed his arms and said, "All right, enough. Get your ass up and figure something out." I wanted to tell him to screw off. But deep down, I knew he was right. And that was the moment everything changed. Lucas wasn't the kind of guy to sit around and let me wallow in self-pity. His version of emotional support was a beer, a reality check, and a kick in the ass. One night, after watching me spend another full day parked on his couch, he sighed and turned off the TV mid-commercial. "All right, Jake. Enough." I barely looked at him. Enough what? Enough sitting around, looking like a sad-ass version of yourself. You gonna spend the rest of your life watching infomercials and collecting dust? Maybe, I muttered. Lucas rolled his eyes. Wrong answer. Get dressed. We're going out. Going out where? You'll see. I had zero interest in leaving the house, but Lucas was like a damn bulldozer when he set his mind on something. I figured he was taking me to a bar or something. Maybe thought I needed to get back out there. Whatever the hell that meant. I was wrong. He took me to a job site. It was a small event venue just outside of town, a converted barn that was getting rewired for a wedding that weekend. Lucas had been hired to handle the electrical work. You brought me to work? I asked, unimpressed. You need to do something other than feeling sorry for yourself, he said, handing me a clipboard. You used to run entire construction crews. You telling me you can't manage a seating chart? I scowled, but before I could argue, someone stormed past us, barking orders into a phone. No, we're not serving steak tartare. This is a wedding, not a damn art exhibit. I turned just in time to see her. Olivia. She was short, sharp, and completely in control. Clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, calling out directions while weaving through a maze of caterers and decorators. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun. Not the stylish kind, the kind that said she'd been too busy to care. She glanced at me once before shifting her attention to Lucas. This your guy? She asked. Yep, Lucas said. She nodded, barely looking at me. Cool. Don't get in my way. Then she turned and walked off. Lucas smirked. She likes you. Yeah, I can really feel the warmth. For the next few hours, I just observed. I had spent my entire career managing chaos, coordinating workers, keeping projects on track. Watching Olivia run the show, I saw the same skill set, just applied differently. At one point, I saw her frowning at a seating chart. A last-minute cancellation had thrown everything off. Without thinking, I spoke up. Move table 6 closer to the entrance. Swap 8 and 10. That way you don't have a dead space in the center. She looked at me, eyebrows raised. You sure? Trust me. She studied the layout, then nodded. All right, new guy. Let's see if you actually know what you're doing. I did. By the end of the night, I had helped with everything. Scheduling, rearranging layouts, even double-checking the electrical setup. My back ached like hell, but for the first time in a long time, I felt useful. Before I left, Olivia stopped me. You ever thought about doing this for real? I snorted. What? Weddings? She shrugged. Logistics. Event planning. You've got a good eye. Yeah, because construction guy turned wedding planner makes a lot of sense. She smirked. Stranger things have happened. I didn't take her seriously. Not then. The lawsuit against my construction company dragged on. Their lawyers did what big corporations always do. Blamed me, downplayed their negligence, and tried to stall long enough that I'd get desperate and settle for a fraction of what I deserved. My lawyer, Rick, was an old-school guy with a bad tie collection and a mean streak when it came to corporate greed. They're hoping you'll break, he told me. Don't. Easier said than done. I was barely scraping by, still stuck in physical therapy, and now, thanks to Melissa, I had no visitation rights to see my kids. I called. I texted. I emailed. Every time, I got the same response from her. It's not a good time. It wasn't a good time when Sophie had her first big school dance. It wasn't a good time when Lucas made the soccer team. It wasn't a good time for 4 years. Then, one night, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. Then I saw the name on the screen. Sophie. I stared at it, my heart slamming in my chest. Then I picked up. Hey, sweetheart. A pause. Then, Dad. I got my own phone. Mom doesn't know I'm calling. I swallowed hard. What's going on? Another pause. Then, her voice, smaller, more unsure than I remembered. Can we visit you? I felt my entire body go rigid. What? Lucas and Chloe want to come too. We miss you. I closed my eyes. For years, I had dreamed of this moment. But now that it was happening, I was terrified. What if they were different? What if I was different? What if I wasn't enough anymore? Of course you can visit, I said, my voice rough. When? Next weekend? She asked, almost like she was scared I'd say no. I let out a shaky laugh. Sweetheart, I drive through a hurricane to see you next weekend. She exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath. Okay, I'll text you the details. Before she hung up, she hesitated. Dad? Yeah. I'm sorry it took me so long. My chest tightened. You don't have to be sorry, kiddo. I swallowed. I'll see you soon. When I hung up, I just sat there, staring at the wall. Lucas walked in, saw my face, and raised an eyebrow. What happened? You win the lottery? I exhaled. Sophie just called. The kids are coming to visit. Lucas let out a low whistle. No kidding. Melissa's letting that happen? I hesitated. She doesn't know yet. Lucas grinned. Well, I'll be damned. Better get the place ready. I spent the next week preparing like a madman. Olivia helped, claiming it was good business practice. But I could tell she just wanted to see me happy. The day they arrived, I got to the bus station 30 minutes early. My hands were shaking. Then I saw them. Sophie spotted me first. She ran straight into my arms. Dad. I hugged her so tight my back screamed in protest, but I didn't care. Lucas joined next, awkward at first, then gripping me like he never wanted to let go. Chloe hung back. I crouched, holding out my arms. She hesitated, then bolted forward, burying her face in my shoulder. I missed you, Daddy. My throat closed up. I missed you too, baby girl. And just like that, I had my kids back. The first night with the kids felt like a dream I was scared to wake up from. We ate spaghetti, Chloe's favorite. She sat beside me, practically glued to my side, stuffing her face like she hadn't eaten in days. Lucas kept sneaking glances at me, like he was still trying to figure out if I was real. Sophie watched. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with this quiet intensity. She was studying me, measuring me against the version of me she'd built in her head over the last 4 years. I let her. After dinner, we played board games, Chloe's request. Lucas got competitive. Sophie rolled her eyes but played anyway. And for the first time in years, I heard my house filled with laughter again. Later that night, when Chloe was asleep and Lucas was watching TV, Sophie sat with me at the kitchen table. Her fingers tapped against her water glass, her face unreadable. "Mom told us you didn't want to see us." My stomach dropped. I exhaled, setting my drink down. "She told you that?" Sophie nodded. Lucas, sitting nearby, frowned. "She said you never tried," Sophie continued, her voice tight, "that you moved on." I felt a sharp, burning anger rise in my chest. Melissa hadn't just taken my kids. She had rewritten history. I pushed back from the table, walked over to my desk, and pulled out a stack of old court documents, emails, and printed messages. I handed them to Sophie. "This is every time I tried." She hesitated, then took them. Lucas leaned in, curiosity flickering across his face. Pages of rejected visitation requests, blocked calls, emails that went unanswered. The restraining order Melissa filed, claiming that me trying to contact my own children was harassment. Sophie's jaw clenched as she flipped through the pages. Lucas muttered, "She really did this?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, she did." Sophie didn't speak for a long time. Then, finally, "She lied to us." I nodded. Lucas balled his fists. "I hate her." "No, you don't," I said quietly. "You're mad. And you have every right to be. But she's still your mom." Sophie was gripping the papers so tightly her knuckles turned white. She wasn't just mad. She was hurt. "I feel so stupid," she mumbled. I leaned forward. "Don't. You trusted her. Because she's your mother. That's not your fault." She swallowed hard, her eyes flicking toward Lucas. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, "We want to stay here." The next morning, Melissa called. I barely had time to say hello before she started screaming. "What the hell did you say to them, Jake?" I sighed, rubbing my temple. "Good morning to you too, Melissa. Don't play dumb. The kids are talking about moving in with you. What lies did you fill their heads with?" I actually laughed. "Lies? You mean like the ones you told them about me?" She went quiet. Then, a beat later, "You don't get to judge me, Jake. You have no idea how hard it was for me." That set me off. "Hard for you?" I growled. "You left me in a hospital bed, Melissa. You packed up and disappeared. Don't talk to me about hard." She scoffed. "You were dead weight, Jake. You couldn't provide. I had to think about the kids." I gritted my teeth. "And how did that work out for you?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp. Silence. Then, softer. "Travis left, didn't he?" Her breathing hitched. "Bingo. This isn't about him," she snapped. "This is about the kids." "Then act like it," I shot back. "Because they know the truth now. And you can either accept that, or you can keep pushing them away. Your choice." She was silent for a long time. Then, voice shaking, "You think you've won, don't you?" I sighed. "Melissa, this was never a game." Then I hung up. A week passed. I kept waiting for Melissa to retaliate. Instead, something unexpected happened. Sophie and Lucas posted a picture on social media. Just a simple shot of them and Chloe sitting with me and Olivia at the park. Nothing dramatic. Just a normal family photo. And somehow, it went viral. Not because of anything we did, but because someone recognized Melissa in the comments. And just like that, the truth exploded. People started digging up old posts. Screenshots of her bragging about Travis. Photos of her perfect new life while I was fighting just to survive. Sophie's friends at school started asking questions. Lucas' soccer coach mentioned seeing the post. Even Melissa's own family started calling her out. And then, Melissa called me again. This time, she was desperate. "Jake, we need to talk." I leaned back in my chair, smirking. "Yeah? About what?" Her voice cracked. I think we should fix things." I nearly dropped my phone. "Come again?" "I want to rebuild our family," she said, voice shaky. "For the kids." I let out a slow breath. Then I laughed. "You don't get to do that, Melissa. You don't get to burn everything down and then act like you care now that your life is falling apart." She went silent. Then, in the smallest voice I'd ever heard from her, I don't know how to do this alone. I exhaled. Well, I said, now you know how I felt. Then I hung up, and for the first time in years, I felt free. The next step was the custody battle, and this time, I wasn't fighting from a disadvantage. Melissa knew she didn't have a case. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she realized she had lost. Whatever the reason, she didn't even put up a fight. She signed the papers. And just like that, my kids were mine again. I spent the next few nights just watching them sleep, still half expecting to wake up and realize it was all some cruel dream. Then, one evening, Chloe curled up beside me on the couch. Daddy? Yeah, baby? She hesitated. Are we staying forever? I kissed the top of her head. Yeah, sweetheart. You're home now. She smiled sleepily, snuggling into my side. And for the first time in a long, long time, I believed it. The first morning with full custody of my kids felt unreal. For so long, I had fought to have them in my life, and now they were here, really here. No weekend visits, no stolen phone calls, no fear of Melissa yanking them away again. Just us. I woke up to the sound of footsteps thundering down the hall. My bedroom door flew open, slamming against the wall. Chloe launched herself onto my bed, giggling. Wake up, Daddy. It's pancake day. I groaned, rubbing my face. It's too early for that much excitement. It's never too early for pancakes. Lucas strolled in, smirking. She's been up for an hour, talking about it non-stop. Sophie leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. I tried to stop her. You know how that goes. Chloe beamed, completely unapologetic. And I just lay there for a second, taking it all in. The sounds, the warmth, the chaos of having my kids home again. I had missed this more than I could ever put into words. After breakfast, Chloe's attempt at pancakes ended in a flour explosion. I stepped outside with Sophie, letting the cool morning air wake me up. She was quiet, kicking at the gravel, lost in thought. What's on your mind? I asked. She hesitated. Then, Mom keeps calling me. I stiffened. What's she saying? That she wants to see us. That she made a mistake. That we should talk as a family. Sophie scoffed, shaking her head. She never wanted to talk before. I exhaled slowly. You don't have to talk to her if you don't want to. Sophie studied me, searching my face. Do you hate her? That caught me off guard. I thought about it. About the hospital bed. The divorce papers. The years of silence. No, I said finally. I don't hate her, but I don't trust her either. Sophie nodded, processing that. I don't know if I want to see her, she admitted. But I don't know if I don't, either. I put a hand on her shoulder. Take your time. No one gets to force you to forgive her. She leaned into my side for a second. A rare moment of vulnerability. Thanks, Dad. Melissa didn't give up easily. After Sophie stopped answering, she started calling me. I let most of them go to voicemail. But eventually, I picked up. Jake, Stop, I cut in. If this is about the kids, say what you need to say. If it's about anything else, save it. A long silence. Then, I don't know how to fix this. Maybe you can't. Her breath hitched. I was scared, Jake. Her voice cracked. I thought I was doing what was best. I didn't realize. Melissa. My voice was steady. You didn't think about anyone but yourself. And now, you're dealing with the consequences. She let out a shaky breath. Do they hate me? I sighed. No, but they don't trust you. Another silence. I want to see them. Then prove to them you've changed, I said. Because words don't mean much anymore. Melissa tried, at least, in her own way. She showed up to Lucas' soccer game, standing awkwardly by the fence. She sent Chloe little gifts in the mail. She texted Sophie short, careful messages. But trust doesn't rebuild overnight. One evening, as I was closing up after an event with Olivia, Melissa showed up. I saw her before she saw me, pacing outside the entrance. Fidgety. Nervous. I sighed. She's here. Olivia glanced up, her expression unreadable. You want me to leave? No, I said, rubbing my temple. I just want this to be over with. I stepped outside. Melissa turned, exhaling. Hey. What do you want? She flinched, like she hadn't expected me to be direct. I don't want this to be a war anymore, Jake. She looked down. I know I messed up. I know I can't take it back. But I don't want the kids to grow up hating me. I studied her. She looked exhausted, older than I remembered. Travis leaving had taken a toll. The reality of losing her family had taken a toll. That's up to them, I said. Not me. I know. She took a deep breath. I needed to say it. She hesitated, then, and I needed to tell you. I'm sorry. I blinked. Melissa never apologized. I didn't say anything at first. Just let the words settle. Then, finally, okay. Not, I forgive you. Not, it's all fine. Just okay. Because sometimes, that's all there is to say. Melissa nodded, accepting it for what it was. Then she turned and walked away. And just like that, it was over. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. Sophie still had her walls up. Lucas still had lingering anger. Chloe still had questions she didn't know how to ask. But we were moving forward. One night, as we sat in the living room watching a movie, Olivia nudged me. So, you never answered my question. What question? I smirked. She grinned. When are we getting married? I choked on my drink. Excuse me? Oh, please. It's only a matter of time. She leaned against me, smirking. Might as well make it official. I chuckled, shaking my head. You're ridiculous. And yet, you love me. I glanced at my kids, happy, safe, home. Then back at Olivia, the woman who never gave up on me. I sighed dramatically. Yeah, I guess I do. She beamed, throwing an arm around me. About time you admitted it, Harris. And for the first time in years, I laughed. Really, truly laughed. Because for the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. The thing about healing is that it doesn't happen all at once. Some days, everything felt normal, like we had always been this way. Just me and the kids, building a new life. Then there were days when the past snuck up on us, like a bruise you forgot about until you pressed too hard. Melissa kept her distance, for the most part. She saw the kids occasionally. Lucas was the most resistant. Sophie was polite but distant, and Chloe was still too young to fully process everything. I didn't stop them from seeing her, but I never forced them to, either. She was their mother. But she was also the person who left. That wasn't something that could be erased just because she decided she wanted to try again. And honestly, I was done carrying that weight, because I had a future to build. The settlement from the lawsuit finally came through. The construction company had dragged it out for as long as they could, but in the end, the evidence was clear. Their negligence almost cost me my life, and they weren't getting away with it. The payout? Substantial. I wasn't suddenly rich, but for the first time in years, I wasn't drowning. The first thing I did? Bought a house. A real home, where each kid had their own room. No more crashing on Lucas' couch, no more temporary fixes. We get to paint our rooms, right? Sophie asked the first day we moved in, eyeing the plain white walls. Yeah. I waved her off. Just don't go crazy. No promises, she smirked. Lucas was already setting up his soccer trophies on his bookshelf. Chloe was spinning in circles in the middle of her new room, giggling. I just stood in the hallway, watching them. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. The second thing I did? Invested in the business with Olivia. We had been running on scraps and favors, making things work with whatever we had. But now, we could actually expand. New equipment, more staff, bigger venues. It was ours, something we had built from nothing. And the more time we spent working together, the more I realized. I didn't just want a business with Olivia. I wanted a life with her. One evening, after an exhausting event, I found myself just watching her. She was sitting on the floor of our office, barefoot, eating leftover wedding cake straight from the box. What? She asked, mouth full. I smirked. Nothing. Just wondering why I put up with you. She threw a fork at me. Oh, please, she rolled her eyes. You'd be lost without me. And she wasn't wrong, because Olivia had been there when no one else was. She had seen me at my worst, and she never once backed away. I took a deep breath. Hey. She looked up. Marry me. She blinked. Once. Twice. Excuse me? You heard me. I leaned against the desk, smirking. You kept saying it was only a matter of time. Figured I'd save you the trouble and just ask already. She stared at me for a long second. Then, she grinned. You're lucky I like you, Harris. She crawled onto her knees, grabbed my face, and kissed me. Yes, you idiot. Telling the kids was interesting. We took them out to dinner, thinking it would be a nice moment, something casual. But before I could even say it, Lucas took one look at Olivia's face and groaned. Oh my God, you're engaged, aren't you? I blinked. How the hell did you know? Sophie smirked. You have I just proposed energy right now. Chloe, completely oblivious to the sarcasm, shrieked with excitement. Does that mean I get to be the flower girl? Olivia laughed. Absolutely. Lucas sighed. Great. Now I have to listen to you two be all gross and in love forever. Damn right, kid, I grinned, ruffling his hair. And just like that, it was official. We weren't just a family, we were a team. Melissa showed up to the wedding. I wasn't sure she would, but she did. She sat quietly in the back, watching as I married the woman who had been there when she wasn't. And for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that I had never seen before. Regret. She didn't say much that day, just hugged Chloe, gave Lucas an awkward pat on the back, and told Sophie she looked beautiful. Then, right before she left, she pulled me aside. You're happy, she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. Yeah, I am. She gave me a small, sad smile. Good. You deserve to be. Then she walked away, and I felt nothing but peace. Life didn't magically become perfect. Some days, my back still ached like hell. Some nights, the past still crept in when I least expected it. But now, I had a reason to keep moving forward. A home filled with laughter. A woman who never gave up on me. 3 kids who had once been taken from me, but had found their way back. And for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.